Hello and welcome back to a very special Christmas edition of the What the Falk podcast. First and foremost, of course, Merry Christmas to all of you listening. We've done quizzes, we've done reviews of the year, we've picked our worst and our best 11s, we've done loads of different shows. But for this Christmas, we're going to be discussing your wild Sunderland opinions as we play. Probably it should have been a better title, but what is your unpopular Sunderland opinion, What the Falk podcast? It's a bit long-winded, but you can kind of see the point. I'm joined by three people tonight. First and foremost, I'm joined by Lee Armstrong. Lee, how are you doing? You okay?
I'm okay, mate. I refreshed now. I wasn't very well this morning because of my own fault. But yes, I'm okay.
You were not well this morning, and I can attest that. You were very, very unwell, in fact. But you know, you're here. You're not dead. You're surviving.
No.
Starting it. Pete, how are you doing, mate? You were with us yesterday. You're not quite as worse for wear as Lee was, but last nonetheless, how are you doing? You okay?
I am tip top. I am in my parents' home. I'm just next door to my childhood bedroom, a place that saw it saw some things. No, it's great. It's lovely. It's nice to be back with the family. And looking forward to a bit of this. I've got some shocking opinions. I've defended some awful things over the years.
Brad, never want to shy away from an unpopular opinion. How are you doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, very good, mate. Still buzzing from yesterday, really. Shame I couldn't get on because I had a few opinions to give. But yeah, really good. Been to a Christmas party today with all the kids. Absolutely knackered. Santa turned up.
Good, mate. Good. The rules are dead simple. Earlier on in the week, I asked you all for your unpopular Sunderland opinion. You all fired loads out at me, which is great. We're going to pick some of them out, and we're basically going to discuss if we agree or disagree with you. And in like an X Factor style manner, if you get 3 yeses, your unpopular opinion is going to be approved by What the Falk podcast, which I don't know if that is a good or a bad thing, but those are the rules. I'll keep the order of how I introduce people, so it'll be like Brad almost, like it's a decide and vote almost every single time, and I'm going to keep it that way. I could switch it up. I'm not going to do that. I think it's funnier to let Brad have the decide and vote for various different reasons. So let's go to the first. I've got loads, and this one I've got to start with because I think it's the most explosive one, and I had it from 2 separate people. Lee, the unpopular opinion is that Darren Bent was better for Sunderland than Jermaine Defoe and Kevin Phillips.
Massively disagree.
Why?
I think it's just speaks for itself. Kevin Phillips joined us as an unknown and became, as you point out, our 7th all-time goal scorer. And Jermaine Defoe played in an absolute dross team and still managed to bag 15 goals a season. Darren Bent did well for a season and a half, saw the cash lines and fucked off.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm going to go really short and sweet because I've got to give my opinion as well. Mine's going to be a definite no. I think there's an argument to be had for Defoe if you're talking about overall quality because Darren Bent was absolutely class for us. There was a reason I was absolutely devastated that he left. But if you're talking about impact, I think I don't need to go too deep into the impact that Jermaine Defoe had off the pitch as well as on the pitch. I know his second spell wasn't anything to write home about or anything to write about at all. But for me, Defoe and Phillips are my favourite 2 number 10s, if you prefer. I know number 10s have changed, but like in a 4-4-2, Phillips and Quinn are the best 2. But Darren Bent could have had a better legacy if the things he said about wanting to create a legacy were actually correct and didn't just want to go to Aston Villa. So we've got 2 no's so far, so Brad might not get any deciding vote. This might be quite easy. Pete, where you're standing on the Darren Bent is better than Jermaine Defoe and Kevin Phillips shout?
Absolutely no. Look, Darren Bent was a fantastic player for Sunderland. He was a fantastic footballer, but the manner in which he built us up to make us feel special, to talk about legacies and everything like that, and then as soon as there was a little bit of money on the line, disappear. To compare, he's not even in this. He's not getting anywhere near Phillips. We don't even need to touch that. Jermaine Defoe, I'm inclined to agree with you, Graham, on that one. So we don't need to go over that again. But no, that's a no.
Everyone's entitled to the opinion. I should have said that at the start. The opinion. I think we've already decided this one's a no. But Brad, just so you have 4 no's, are you going? You're not agreeing with that, surely?
Um, no. I'll just say I would understand it if Bent had stayed another couple of seasons and continued how he was going. I would be, yeah, possibly.
It's just too hard for any agreement with that. You know what? I said I was going to go Lee, Peter, Brad, but I'm going to go Brad, Peter, Lee with this one because for obvious reasons. Friend of the pod involved in this one, so we don't have to tread carefully. No. Until the Coventry game in 2018-2019, Jack Baldwin was an okay player for us. Not good by any means, but nowhere near as bad as people made out. People remember him primarily off that game, in my opinion. Brad, where do you stand on that?
I tweeted or put on Facebook, and I think I've shared it with you guys. I think after 4 or 5 games of that season, Jack Baldwin's possibly one of the best centre halves I've seen at Sunderland in a long, long time. I might have been a bit premature with that, but I still do think he took the flak. It could have been him or Flanagan, either of them from that game, and unfortunately, it was Baldwin. But you know me as well. I'm mates with Jack. I'm going to defend him to the hills and say I agree with that. I think Baldwin was nowhere near as bad as people made him out to be. It was just one game where he even says himself he was poor, but so was nearly enough everyone else on the pitch that day, especially in a defensive sense. And I think Jack Ross hung him out to dry to save his own skin, to be honest with you. No, I think Jack was a half decent centre half, to be honest, and still did.
You're going to get a second yes from me on that. Because I think if we're talking individual performances, I will openly and admittedly say I think Jack and Tom Flanagan's performance that day was single-handedly up there with one of the worst performances I've ever seen in a Sunderland shirt. But I do think if you're looking at that first season where, up until the end and those stupid draws we had and the Magic situation, there's an argument to say we could have went up. We didn't, so it didn't really matter. But that season you had Jimmy Dunn, Alan Turk, Glenn Loovens, Jack Baldwin and Tom Flanagan. And I think on talent, Baldwin was probably the best of the lot. Look, I know it's not a great set of centre halves, but I think on talent, he was probably the best of the lot. I think what might have affected him is not long afterwards, the man who now manages Wrexham came in and he occasionally liked to play with the back five and Flanagan could play a left-sided centre half role. God, I feel like I'm going through like a really bad relationship here when I'm talking about all this, by the way. But for me, I kind of agree with that. I think if the opinion is Jack Baldwin was an okay centre half for Sunderland, yeah, like he didn't really play after that, and he had some stinkers, and I think he was out of form, and that game topped it off. But I think for the first 4 or 5 months, he was probably the better of the centre halves that we had, and I certainly don't get angry when I think of Jack Baldwin the same way I do like a Lawrence de Bock, and he's a nice lad. So I'll agree with that. But I will say that the Coventry game was one of the worst performances I've ever seen from us on the team and both them individually, but I'm sure they'll both agree with that themselves. Lee, are you going to top off this with 3 yeses or are you going to slate Jack?
I'm not going to slate him. Probably say yes because I can't say he wasn't any worse than Tom Flanagan, and Tom Flanagan played for us for about 4 years. I think what lets them down is it's the pair of them really. They were both very similar in how they played. And if they played next to someone like, I don't know, like a Bailey Wright, someone that type of centre half, you probably should have seen the better standards of them, but they were both very similar. But based on that Coventry game, my main memory of Jack Baldwin's when he tackled thin air for Coventry's 5th goal. Like, no offence, Jack, but aye, I'll say aye. I'll agree with that because I don't think he was any worse than Tom Flanagan, and Tom Flanagan had an elongated Sunderland career.
I liked Flanagan because he liked to get in the fights for no apparent reason, but that's by the by. That's not talent, is it? That's just fighting ability and of aggro, I guess. Pete, you don't get a final deciding vote, but you get a say in this.
Look, I don't really have a lot to add to it. I don't think Baldwin was a terrible, terrible footballer at all. I think he was probably among the better out of a terrible period. The fact that you have just brought that up, man. Yeah, I know this is an audio medium, but like if you could see my reactions to it, I've just been gurning and having my head in my hands as those those horrible days have been brought back to life. So look, not a terrible player in a terrible side, playing some of the worst football I've seen Sunderland ever play.
That opinion goes into the approval column that's been approved. So there we go. The unpopular opinion that Jack Baldwin was an okay player for us, and people remember him solely on the Coventry game, is a one that we approve. I'm going to start with you, Pete, on this because you haven't had the first vote on any of them yet. I know I said I was going to go Brad first, but I've just changed my opinion. I can do that. Literally, my podcast, I can do what I want. Oh, right. I think this one's... I kind of get on board with it, but I'm going to go with it. Bolo Zenden was crap, and his legs were gone.
Right, who's this? Because I'm back in the northeast right now, so like, and I've got my car. It's outside.
I'll find it.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No, no, no. Impossible. Look, if that lad, even if his legs had been gone for the dance he did with Asamoah, no, absolutely not. I think he was still a quality footballer, very much a footballer that brought a wealth of experience to a Sunderland team at the time. All right, and no, that's impossible to get behind. I mean, he wasn't. I don't think it was the best version of Bolo Zenden, but I think even a bad version of Bolo Zenden is still a very good footballer.
Yeah, I can't agree with it. I love Bolo. I don't think each game ever really relied on pace that much. And I think his goal against Spurs is arguably up there with Kevin Phillips's against Chelsea. Is the best goal I've ever seen at the stadium, like in the flesh. Maybe Edge, Super Kev's ahead of him because it was just... I watched it again this morning, unreal. But
yeah, I mean, I was going to say you can't do that because when I'm feeling sad, I either imagine that Kevin Phillips goal or I YouTube it. You know, that was one of the defining moments of my life. So yeah, no.
But a close second behind it, Bolo's ending against Spurs in arguably one of the best games for a neutral at the stadium. Like for me, Zenden, no, loved him. Thought he was great. Thought he had tons of quality. He scored a really good goal down at Bolton when we won 2-1, and Sully Montari scored in the last minute. Well, it was that night technically. Rounds the keeper just before half time. Away and absolutely bouncing, singing the Bolo Zenden song, the Chelsea dance. No, I really liked Bolo, and I thought we should have tried harder to keep him at the club. The flip side of that is that he didn't play for anyone after us when we let him go, which is an interesting, almost sad fact, really. Lee, where are you in the Bolo Zenden? I think so far we've got two. Of course, that's not an opinion we agree with, but
I respect everyone's opinions, but that's just silly. Just the silly it is. I mean, if his legs are gone, he's done a canny job to get them that high for his volley against Spurs.
Trying to find it, and I can't find it. I can't at all. We spend most of our time saying opinions are always valid. We've done it again on here, and we do agree with that. We do believe everyone's got the right to their own opinion, that every opinion is valid, but we've absolutely slaughtered some people already here, bless them. They'll never do it again, but it's all just a laugh and joke. Don't get mad.
Cannot wait for the tweets to go, what the fuck is he? Which opinions are right or wrong?
Well, we're in the process of doing the best we possibly can to get everyone to unsubscribe, and I believe that this might be doing quite well from that perspective. If me being drunk on the podcast after the Norwich game and slurring my words didn't do that, this might just do it. Brad, do you want to top it off with four no's, or are you of the belief that Bolo's ending was in fact potentially finished?
Not a chance. My mates used to wind me up because they said I had a strange obsession with Bolo's ending.
Bolo.
So yeah, I loved him. He was class. Class.
It's not for me. Like I can't get away with that one, but here we are.
No, just that one needs to get in the bin. Next.
I think this one's a bit more subjective. I think I've given a lot of ones where we're probably likely to disagree with it. So I'll chuck this one back to Lee first. I sort of understand this one. I'm not saying whether I agree or disagree. I'll give you my opinion in a bit. But Younes Kaboul is massively overrated by a lot of our fans. He cost us more games than he had good ones, although his assist against the Mags was very impressive. I think very impressive. Translates as absolutely class, by the way. But was Kaboul overrated? I suppose that's a bit more subjective.
I wouldn't say he was overrated. I mean, there's a reason why we finished bottom of the league the year after he left. and because he was that experienced and now in the middle of the centre half pair between him and Cornier. And I don't know. I always liked Younes Kaboul before when he played against Sunderland for like Pompey and Tottenham. I always liked Younes Kaboul when we signed him. I was buzzing. But I disagree with that. I thought he was good for us. Was Kaboul?
I I do understand the question, right? Because I went to Bournemouth away and he got sent off. And for the first, well, until Allardyce came in, pretty much he was crap. And there was the kind of furore beforehand about him not coming on unless there was an earthquake and all that kind of stuff, which didn't actually bother me, to be honest. But it appeared that I remember at Bournemouth, boiling hot day, got beat 2-0, 2-0 down in the first 11 minutes. He was useless, got sent off, didn't look great. And I thought, this kid just doesn't want to be here. So I can understand when he only really had one season that the sort of first 3-4 months he was at least unimpressive. People can feel he was overrated. And I suppose what came after him was very, very, very poor. But the minute a decent manager got hold of him, and let's be honest, Dick Advocaat checked out before he'd rejoined, really. We knew that. And I like Dick Advocaat, but the job wasn't right for him. It wasn't the right appointment. If I believe the reports, I think it was Sean Dyche that was due to come in, which in hindsight, which is a wonderful thing, would have been the right thing. But I don't think I can understand it, but I'm going to say no, I don't agree with it because of the simple fact that Younes Kaboul, for me, was probably the best centre half we've had for years, up until we've got Chris Mepperman this year. So therefore, I think a lot of what came after him has been nowhere near as good, and I think his performances were that good from the time Allardyce came in, and he also has like an iconic moment against our nearest and dearest. I'm going to say no, but I understand it's a bit more subject. Like it is a bit more objective, that one, I think.
Yeah, I think the Sean Dyche thing, there was rumours that he actually met the players. Like, to the point he actually met the Sunderland players and said bye to the Burnley players, and Advocaat changed his mind. But I would totally agree with what you said, is that when a good manager got a hold of him, he was a stalwart in the team. And after all the centre-halves we signed, he was the only one that actually kept John O'Shea out of the team.
Yeah.
Because we'd always go through a phase where we'd sign a centre-half to replace O'Shea and give it to October and O'Shea was back in the team.
Yeah.
Because the rest of them that were brought in was shite.
No, I like Kaboul. I'm gonna say no to that, but I do understand the question a lot more. Pete, I'll give you this one. Is that it's not straightforward yes or no, that one, for some reason, because the opinion isn't that he was bad or he was not good. It's that he was overrated by fans, and we do think very highly of Younes Kaboul.
I think we have a tendency, and yeah, I agree that it isn't just like, is Younes Kaboul a good footballer or not? I think it's more a question about Sunderland fans and how do we lionize players or not at times. And I think obviously Kaboul got that assist against the Mags, like, so he's always going to be on a highlight reel that plays in everybody's mind. You know, when you're in that sad place and you think, oh, I'll just think of some nice Sunderland goals. Usually they're against Newcastle. So of course I think players that have had that part in the folklore will always end up slightly on a pedestal. But I think Younes Kaboul was a great footballer. I think he played very well, always played very well for Pompey and Tottenham, as Lee had said. And I remember him being one of those people that you watch playing for another side and think he'd do great in a red and white top. And yeah, so I'm going to say we probably overrate him, but I do think he's a good footballer. So how do you balance that? So I can't really accept the premise of the question that was asked. So I'm going to say no. I don't agree.
Brad, we've agreed with us every opinion thus far, which is probably a bit boring, really, isn't it? But sorry, unsubscribe. Brad, do you complete the set though?
He wasn't overrated. He was just a very good centre half for us. I think that the overrated.
He had a poor start. He did have a poor start.
Yeah,
he did.
Yeah. But ultimately, he was part of the team that one relegated the Mags. Two made Lamine Kone look like a £25 million centre half.
He did,
which is quite impressive.
Kone wasn't even in the end. Wasn't even a good championship centre half.
No,
so I think we probably underestimate that a bit as well. How good he made him look.
maybe that's another unpopular opinion. Cornet's shit and was made to be look good by Younes Kaboul.
I'd agree with
Possibly.
that. Probably.
Kaboul was good. I liked him, and like I say, part of the team that helped relegate the Mags. Great assist.
Cried on the pitch when he did it.
Yeah, great assist against the Mags. And ultimately, I think, was it from February or was it March until the end of the season? We only lost once or twice.
3 in total. One of them was against Leicester, who beat
Leicester
everyone at that point.
Won the league. But like, I think from the point where Kaboul and Cornet built up that partnership, and look, we did have other players in that team, but we were top 6 on form. So that says quite a lot. We were really good.
There was one opinion that someone said they felt, and I'm not going to ask anyone this, I'm just going to put it out there. Please don't give an opinion on this because I haven't got the podcast time to do it. That they felt Moyes was the fall guy. But my point to that was going to be the fact that how little games we lost under Allardyce towards the end, how good we actually were towards the end, despite the fact the league position didn't show it, shows you probably how bad the recruitment was, and then the appointment of David Moyes at the same time. Now, this one, I think, is going to give us a little bit more of a disagreement, but I'll start with Pete, because I like this question. My unpopular SAFC opinion is the thin pinstripe kit from 17-18 was actually quite good.
No, get in the sea, go as far away as you possibly can. I hated it. I thought it was horrible. I'm nobody to give anybody fashion tips, but no. Just bad. Don't like it when someone had the thin stripes. I was watching some really old goals from, I think it was from the early 80s that was just on some Twitter feed the other day, and some of them were in the really fine, I think it's a Cowie's one. And even that, I was thinking, nah, I don't like that. So yeah, no, that the really thin stripes, nah, not for me. No, thank you.
I am going to disagree. I really liked it. And there's when it first came out, I went, okay, different, don't mind it. And I've always liked Sunderland kits that have a little bit of black trim on it. So the black trim was nice and it fit to size, which is important, Hummel. As much as I love you, it is important that I'm either a small or an extra large. Please decide, because it's hard when you're short on stock. All right. But when I wear my pinstripe Sunderland shirt to like the gym and stuff like that, or I wear it to a match, this sounds ridiculous and stupid, but it makes me go, I was there when James Vaughan played up front with us in League Camp and Jason Steele was in goal, and I'm proud to have still supported Sunderland at that point. For me, I don't mind the pinstripe shirt. I like it. It's one of my more favoured home shirts, although it's nowhere near the favourite. It's like top 7 or something. Much like last season's Illuminous yellowy, greeny kit. I really like that. A lot of people didn't. It does have a reflection on people's faces. It's that bright, so I understand why you couldn't really wear it if you were going to, I don't know, rob a house, which of course I wouldn't do. But if you were to rob a house, you'd easily be caught because it's very bright. But anyway, the question is the pinstripe kit. Pete said no, a hard no to Jackie White's home kit. Jackie White's bag's home kit, sorry. I've said quite a hard, not hard yes, a strong yes. Lee, are you going to swing this to give Brad a final vote? In which way are you going to swing it?
I liked it.
Yes. Same.
I did. Mostly because of the black trim that was on the top.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't mind it, mate. It has not been the worst kit we've had. At the end of the day, it has a lasting memory, like you said, and I'm just nearly vomiting in my mouth when you mentioned James Vaughan League Camp. He's great. But I didn't mind it, mate. I thought it was all right.
Brad, are you going to complete the set? Are we going to have a draw on this one? Is it going to come down to my vote because I rule the roost here and I just decide it's good? Or are you going to just save me from doing that?
I'm going to say that shirt was, for me, it was a grower, not a shower. What I mean by that is, when I first seen it, I thought, what the hell is that? It looked like a shopping bag. But the more I seen it, I was like, actually, I like it. And then I bought it. And then throughout that season, I think I must have bought 4 or 5 in different sizes, especially for Archie. It's when they brought out the one for the foundation where I had for Bradley with the thumb.
Yes.
And I just kept buying it. And I've still got quite a few. Like Archie kept wearing them for years because one, it was a nice thing for the foundation, but I did like it. I did like it, but not straight away. Which, if you want to talk about the Hummel thing, was like the third kit this season.
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't like it, but as soon as I seen it in person, I went,
Loved
"Yeah, it's one of my favourite shirts. I think it's the only one that I wear. I've got all the other ones, but it's the only one I wear. So yeah, I think unlucky Pete, you're on your own.
So,
But I am impeccably well dressed.
That opinion, well, that's an unpopular opinion if you're allowed to have that one, but this is about something that's not your fashion sense, Pete. This is not Pete's unpopular opinions about Pete, because I'm sure we'll get quite a few of them, as they would with me. I'm pleased we haven't done that. But that is an unpopular opinion by Dawson Pies on Blue Sky, and it's been approved. It's been approved. But we're going to take a really short break because people have wanted us to do bumper episodes. And look, I haven't paid for the Zoom. I'm not paying for it. But I've noticed if you turn it off, save it, have a break, and turn it back on again, you can do a little bit longer. And it is Christmas, so why not? Let's treat you.
Sunderland sing, oh, Patrick Roberts. Oh, Patrick Roberts. Ooh, ooh, oh, oh, Patrick Roberts made him messy. He is our king. Every week you see him running up and down the wing. Show as he makes the Sunderland sing, oh, oh, Patrick Roberts. Ooh, Patrick Roberts. Patrick Roberts. Whoa, whoa, Patrick Roberts. Oh.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed the nice little jingle. I hope you're having a good Christmas Day. If it's Christmas Day, if it's not Christmas Day, I don't know when I'm releasing this. I think it's Christmas Day, so it will be Christmas Day. If it's after Christmas Day, look, I just hope you're having a nice time. We're going to go through a few more unpopular Sunderland opinions, because I'm quite enjoying this, really. Probably going to take me quite a lot of editing, because we've probably offended some people, but let's try our best nonetheless. Let's go back to, right, Brad, you can have this one straight off the bat. Let's go with... there's a few good ones, to be fair, that people put them in. Right, I like this one. My unpopular opinion is that Josmer Altidore was a key player in our League Cup 2014 run.
No. When you said Josmer Altidore, I thought you were going in a different direction. I would have agreed with it. Because I think he didn't bring any goals, really, did he? I was going to say he brought a lot more to the team than just goals, but I think he brought just a goal at some point.
2, technically. Home against Stoke in the League Cup and Chelsea in that 4-3 game.
Yeah. No. I can't agree with that one, but I was gutted it didn't work with Josie. His touch in the derby for Barini's goal, that was class. That was such clever football.
It wasn't Barini's.
Yeah, it was.
It was the one afterwards, because Barini's was a penalty.
The one at home?
Aye, it was. I thought you meant the back heel at St James's.
No, it was the home one. But then there was the back heel as well.
Yeah, for Johnson's.
Yeah.
He won the penalty at Chelsea. He won
the penalty at Chelsea.
Yeah.
He done some... I just wish he'd have scored 5 or 6 goals. And I think people might have just looked at him and said, look, he's not going to be an out-and-out great striker, but he done a job for us. I think he'd done a lot more than people give him credit for because he didn't score goals. But to be saying he was a pivotal role in the cup run, nah, not for me.
Nah, I don't think he didn't score enough. He didn't play enough. But what I would say is, like, I do remember his impact that he had. when he came against Man United in the semi-final, he got the ball like the second leg. He came on like more of if I remember rightly, more like a wing position, and he held the ball with us held the ball up the pitch better for us with his strength, and he did play a part. I don't think he was a key player. My unpopular Josie Altidore opinion is whenever you mention Josie Altidore, people will say, "Oh, if that perfectly legitimate goal that he scored against Arsenal was given, it would have been so different." My opinion is that if that goal had been given, which it was a legitimate goal, Josie Altidore would just have 3 Sunderland goals. It wouldn't have made a difference. Because when he eventually did score, it didn't make a difference. He just would have had one more goal. The bloke was never going to score a goal as long as he had a hole in his arse. But for some bizarre, unbeknown reason, probably due to the fact that he won that penalty down at Chelsea and he always tried his best and he was absolutely class when we beat the Mags 3-0 away from home. I've got loads of time for Josie, to the point where when I went to Toronto and he had his MLS top goal scorer shields, numerous of them on the wall at the Audi Stadium, I think it's called. I could be wrong. I got my photo took with it because I was like, Josie. And that's my feeling towards Josie is, Josie. But I've got to say no. I don't think he was a key player. Do I think he played a role in it? That was not just a bit part one? Absolutely. 100% agree on that. Don't think he was key. I think your key players were, ironically, Key, Barini, and the likes. You look at who scored the goals and whatnot and who set the goals up. But yeah, oh God, good memories. Pete, was Josie Altidore key 2014 League Cup run member?
Well, you have to have 11 players on the pitch, so I suppose he was there. No, I mean, I'm being a bit facetious there. I was going to be a little meaner on Josie, but you've actually reminded me that I have some quite fond memories of him. No, he's not key for it. You've touched on everybody who was important. He was a part of that side. He wasn't leading that side. He wasn't the crucial part of it. Yeah, no, not for me.
Lee, are you in agreement with that?
I'm actually going to agree with the fella, actually. On the
Are you?
basis, yes, on the basis that he says he played a key part in us going to the League Cup run. Without his ability to not be able to control a football, Bahrain doesn't score the equaliser against Chelsea in the quarterfinals.
Oh God, I.
So for that thing alone, I agree with that fella, because without it, we don't score the equaliser in the quarterfinal, and Key does not go on to get the winner, and we just go out.
Josie.
So yes, sir, I do agree with you that Josie Altidore played a key part in our League Cup run.
Do you know what's funny with Josie? I don't know if any of you were there, but the game when we won 3-0 under Poyet at St James's, he was absolutely class. Like, I'll die on the hill that he was the best player we had on the pitch that day. He was absolutely brilliant. The game went perfect. We cruised through the game. It was one of like the most easy derbies I've ever been to in my life. When Josie went clean through on goal and had about 20 yards of space to run into, I knew he was going to miss because I knew he had too much time to think. And I was just like, shout out for Liam Bridcut that day, by the way, as well. He was also very good randomly. But I just knew he was going to miss. And I think that sort of summed Josie's time up at Sunderland for me. Was he was lovable. I was desperate for him to do well. I don't think he was a bad player, but he was never going to score goals for Sunderland. And it just was one of those situations where it wasn't going to happen. That sometimes happens. It just sometimes doesn't work. And we move on. But look, he did play a part in the cup run. He did play a part. I just don't think he was key. Key, as I say, was key for me. So I'm going to fire this one at Pete because I think this is... I have an opinion on this, and I do think it's a fair one. And you're the only one old enough to remember this player. Gareth Hall, as bad as he was, no longer makes our all-time worst 11.
Well, he didn't make ours. I do remember him. I did watch him play, and he was a poor footballer. Wasn't good enough. But I think the absolute catastrophe that was the years of wilderness that we've just kind of starting to crawl our way out of mean that we have. I mean, McFadzean gets in that side ahead of him, just off the top of my head, at left back. No, I agree with that. I think that's right. I'll side with that one. He was poor at the time. He would definitely have been in my all-time worst 11. He didn't make my all-time worst 11 when we did do this on the pod a couple of weeks ago, and I do think we've had worse since.
Here's a question off topic, really quickly. Short one-word answer from all these. I'll start with you, Pete. Worst ever Sunderland player? No reason, just who it is.
Oh man, off the top of my head, I mean, I think Callum McFadden, because I think he's just in terms of his ability as a footballer. I don't think he's a bad fella. I don't think I can. I think we can probably pick some people who we don't want to have associated with the club. But yeah, I think he was just never of the standard.
Josh Scowen. Brad, who's your
Oh,
worst ever Sunderland player? Josh Scowen for me by a country mile. Rubbish.
Josh Scowen, the Rat. I remember somebody trying to make a case. Oh, his nickname's the Rat because he gets everywhere. I'm like, that's not a good
He
nickname.
got 3 assists against Aston Villa under 21s or whatever when we beat them 8-1. Everyone was clamouring for him to get in the team. Crap. Worst player I've ever seen in my life. Couldn't pass a ball, couldn't score. He also once scored, correct me if I'm wrong, an own goal when he was on the line against Charlton. Honestly, rubbish. Awful. Brad?
Two. I'll go with the one I think was the worst. Yeah, George Dobson.
Ooh. Nice hair, though.
I don't care.
Also great for the self-esteem.
Yeah.
Because you watch that and you think, get me this season's kit, I can do that.
It's got to be George Dobson. I
Really?
thought that bloke was abysmal. And he ran like Gollum. He looked like Gollum when he ran. He had that little like hunchback bob in his heater boot. Honestly, I can't believe when I think back, I paid money to watch that boy imitate being a footballer.
I thought he was going to be good, so I had a shirt with Dobson on the back and I made 15 quid on Vinted. I don't know who bought it, maybe George himself. Lee, we've gone off
Lee
topic
Camp.
here. Aye,
Lee
okay,
Camp.
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's valid. I'm fine with that.
We signed a goalkeeper who couldn't dive on his left-hand side.
Danny Graham?
Nah.
No.
Danny Graham actually contributed something to Sunderland. He scored twice. But Lee Camp was just the worst player I've ever seen play for Sunderland in the most important position.
Ye olde poppadom hands. Brad, does Gareth Hall no longer go in our worst 11? Similar to what Pete said, does the League One years now mean that he's not in our worst 11?
I don't know. Never seen him play, but I do know that we've had, like
Shocking.
Pete said, we've had Callum McFadden, we've had Donald Love. So now I've seen them two try and pretend to be footballers. So if he's any worse than them, then realistically he should be Sunday League. So was he worse than them too? Because if he was, then that must be horrendous. And I feel sorry for the people that paid money to watch him.
He was absolutely cack. He was absolutely horrendous. Like, whenever any winger used to run at him, I used to sit in the clock stand, so I was always on his side. And I remember his eyes used to like scan everywhere, like he was kicking himself. No matter who he came up, I remember he came up against, I think it was Dean Holdsworth, Wimbledon, run at him, and he just looked like he was absolutely crapping himself. Got beat 3-1 at Roker Park. And I remember we played Stoya Bucharest. I think it was Dickie Odd's testimonial. And he got knocked out by a ball straight in the face, and everyone cheered. Everyone's like, "Oh, hey!" Because we're just like, "Well, fingers crossed." That means Darius is going to be playing at the start of the season.
I
But
forgot all about that. That's cheered me right up. I was there.
it did happen. But I think I am gonna agree. I think that Don Love probably takes his place now. Lovable Don Love. I think the League One years mean that. I think Gareth Hall could have even done something in League One. Well, and you know what? No, I don't. I don't think he could have done that. I don't think he would have looked as bad as Don Love, because outside of like a really random good assist against Leeds of all teams, I don't think Donald Love did anything. Like, period. So bad. Like, so bad. And I think he would get in ahead of Gareth Hall. So I think, because Brad hasn't seen him. Lee, you didn't watch Gareth Hall either, did you? You were too young for Gareth Hall.
No, I haven't seen him live, but I've seen Gareth Hall play football. And
You look like you've seen him live the state you in the day.
I, but he gets in mine. He was utter shite, and just because he's given Donald Love a bit of stick. I remember we played Watford at home, And we won 1-0 and Van Aanholt scored. And Donald Love was
Midfield.
out. What?
Playing midfield
No.
that day.
And I played right back. Donald
Did
Love. Yeah, and he was outstanding. He was outstanding that day.
No.
But I think Gareth Hall will ever be one of them players that he'll always be in Sunderland's worst 11 because he was utter dog shit.
Gareth Hall, the generation before me was Steve Hetsky. And I'd never seen him, so I can't really discuss it. But it was always, whenever I'd speak, it'd be Steve Hetsky. And I think mine and Pete's generation, when you say, who's Sunderland's worst player, we go Gareth Hall. It's just what you come up to. And also, he kept Darius Kabishka out of the team when he was meant to have his consecutive game. And I cannot accept that. Like, that's not fair. He should have stepped aside and gone, you know what, Peter? No, I've got the flu. So we'll do a couple more, but I'll stick with, right, I'm going to do 2 more, and then we're going to give our own, although you know mine because it's about Jeff Whitley, but we're going to give our own. So we'll do quick fire because I want to go and enjoy Christmas and watch the basketball. Lee, I'll stick with you for this one. Denver Hume was worse than Callum McFadden.
No. Just no. No. Who said that? No.
Can I fire a start at you?
Aye.
Callum McFadden won a trophy with Sunderland. Denver Hume didn't.
Couldn't give a shit. Couldn't care.
Denver Hume could kick a football.
Aye.
Could he?
Yeah.
He looked like Johnny Bravo. I'm gonna agree. I think Denver Hume was worse than Callum McFadden. Pete's face tells me what he's going to say, but I'll ask you anyway, mate.
No, Denver Hume was a better footballer than Callum McFadden. Trophy aside and everything like that, and him sitting with the trophy with it put on his face and all of that. Nah. Denver Hume, not of the standard that was needed, but still an actual footballer. Could pass himself off as a footballer.
But if you put Denver Hume and Callum McFadden in the same room, Callum McFadden could go, put your medals on the table, Denver. So I'm right. Okay, fine, I'm wrong. Callum McFadden was worse than Denver Hume.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if you put Jordan Henderson and Steven Gerrard in a room and said, put your medals on the table, you're telling me Henderson's a better player than Stevie G?
Yes.
Better captain, maybe he's not a better player.
For the purpose of winning the argument, I'm saying yes.
David May has more medals than Steven Gerrard.
Does he have
David
more
May
than...
was a fine footballer, but, not the world beater.
I think Pete's mentioned David May because he's got the look of David May back in the 94-95 season. Blackburn said,
I would have loved to have been David May. What a life that is, man. To just be on the sidelines, just being the vibe. Basically, Leo Hjelde. That's all I want to be.
The vibes guy.
Man, mostly vibe.
The vibes man. Right, we've got one more before we give our terrible opinions, and definitely get you to unsubscribe. And I think this is the crucial one. I think it's great. I love this question because I know the carnage it's going to cause. Brad, I'll go to you first because I know you're going to love this. Given our home form this season and our neighbours' current away form, if we play them again, we'll do them.
100%.
Good lad. That's the right answer.
100%. And you know what it was when I was watching the draw come out and there was 10 balls left? I was hoping that we'd get them. I
will never, ever, ever, on a recorded podcast or an unrecorded podcast or a conversation, tell anyone that they will ever beat us. I don't care what stats, facts, or anything you throw at us, the money, the team, or whatever, might be proven wrong in the end, but I'll never, ever, ever fear or not fancy them. So I 100% agree with, I think it was Jack that said that. So there's two yeses. Lee, I'll give you the third.
Oh, yeah, fuck the mags. Aye, yeah. Of course we will.
Right answer. Pete, are you also of the fuck the mags?
Absolutely,
thinking?
absolutely. I'm a big fan of a redemption story. I'm a big romantic. I think there's a spirit in those boys and a character in those boys that has unfinished business with them lot. So yeah, I think so. I would love it if we got them in the next round.
Just to quickly go through the other opinions we had, which we're not going to discuss. We had Christian Riveros needed more starts. On the song alone, I'll agree. The pre-match light show should only be used for 5 or 6 games per season, and ideally only for the most prestigious games of the competition, the league season, sorry. The other one was Lee Johnson, and despite his tactical flaws, shouldn't be labelled as one of our worst. and was the first step of the club's identity and strategy today. I will say if Lee Johnson is any part of this club's identity, I do not want to be part of this football club because I didn't even like The Office, so I don't like the real life version of David Brent. Steve Malbranque was shite. I'm not going into it. Dean Whitehead was gash. I'm not going into it. I think he's massively underrated. But anyway, unpopular opinions. Everyone knows mine. Jeff Whitley always gets kind of chucked in with the worst ever Sunderland players. He was nowhere near. We've mentioned loads of them in this. He wasn't the best. He was basic. He passed sideways and backwards and kept the ball for us and couldn't take a pen. But I think he gets unfairly mentioned when we talk about worst players list when he was a player that was in the team that played 30 plus games and won the league. Mick McCarthy liked him. He was never going to be a Premier League footballer, but he did a fine job. And he once tackled a player on the line to score a goal, which for me is fully deserving of not being the worst player in our history. But I think, plenty of people have discussed that. Lee, what's your unpopular Sunderland opinion? Please don't get us cancelled.
Lyndon Gooch was an average footballer, and if he hadn't come through the academy, it would have been left long before he actually did.
Oh, and I like Gucci, man.
I agree.
With me or Lee?
Lee.
Oh, no, man. You can't. Nah, we're getting cancelled.
Loved Gucci. I did, but it was because he was the Californian Mackham. And if anything needs to sum it up, when you see him from a different perspective, watch his game when he came back and played against us last season.
Pete, please uncancel the
I
podcast.
I love Lyndon Gooch. I love Lyndon Gooch because he came through the academy, because he scored that goal at Wembley, but watch him at Stoke. And I'm inclined. And again, it's a question not so much about the player. It's a question not so much about the player, but who we are as a fan base. And we do lionize those as much as we criticize them as well. They come through the academy. If he hadn't been, as Brad said, the California Mackham, I don't think he would have been as loved as he is. I think he's an absolute top fella, an absolute top bloke. I wish him nothing but the best, but I don't think he's as good as sometimes he was made out as.
I just want to say this is the opinions of Pete, Lee, and Brad, not What the Fuck podcast.
I don't know if Lyndon would like to come on the podcast for an interview, then he's more than welcome.
With me specifically.
Just to add to my point, George Honeyman is twice the player Lyndon Gooch is, and he got bombed out for being an academy player.
I'm not having it. Gucci's miles better than not having it. Nice lad, George Honeyman. Had a couple of.
No, I think you're still pissed.
Chats with him. Nice. No, not having it. Brad, what's your? Please again, don't cancel us. Unpopular Sunderland opinion.
I think there's no mine because I banged on about it last season quite a lot. If we didn't sack Tony Mowbray, we'd have made the playoffs.
Disagree
if you want. I know, but we would have.
One of the unpopular opinions from fan bases was Michael Beale was misunderstood. They did have a laughing face on the end, so I don't think they were serious. But Pete, are you going to agree or disagree with the Tony Mowbray show? I suppose it's objective, like.
I can definitely see why Brad's gone for it. I love Tony. Just think he's a top fella. I do think probably things had gone stale and weren't working out. I mean, it didn't work out anyway, really, did they? But when I was sitting and the news came through that he was leaving the club, I thought, yeah, that's probably for the best. So, but do I think they should have kept him now? I don't. I think he had to go at the time. I think he did have to go. They certainly messed up who they replaced him with, but I think it was time for that to change.
Covered it loads last season. I agree with what Pete says. The problem was the appointment of Satan and not the sacking of the Saint, who Tony is a lovely lad, but I think it was the right time to part ways. I just wish it was a different appointment to what came afterwards. Pete, you're taking us out here. What's your we just had an unpopular opinion come through in the chat, and I can't. We're going to get cancelled for that. Pete, what was your unpopular opinion? While I mute myself and laugh.
He plays left wing. He loves McDonald's and Burger King. My unpopular opinion is one from the way back when, and I'm going to say it that am I going to say this out loud? Am I going to put this into a broadcast medium? I think I am. I'm going to say that the 98-99 dominance of that Sunderland team was wasted, and a lot of the blame for the waste in that went down to Peter Reid and his tactical naivete going into the Premier League, over reliance on Kevin Phillips, and some shocking transfer decisions. And that should have been the start, the catalyst that kicked Sunderland on to European football and getting in there and thereabouts. I'm not suggesting they really should have gone at all earlier. I'm not suggesting that those 2 7-place seasons were probably amongst the greatest moments in my life, and that 98-99 team. But they should have done better, and they messed it up. They had the chance to get there, and it should have. I just don't think they lived up to what they should have done. That's my unpopular opinion.
I sort of agree with it. It might get us cancelled, but there was 2 years in a row we could have went top. And I'm not saying we should have won the Premier League, but I think
no, not at all. But I mean, but there are teams like, I mean, do we compare ourselves to Leicester? I think we probably should in terms of the size of the club, if not much bigger. But like, it's there's teams that have played in the Champions League. There's teams that have played in Europe that are far smaller and far less significant teams in global football, let's face it, than Sunderland. And they never got to do that. And it's probably shaped my relationships and my view on life because they didn't.
I think there was a 13-game winless run. I know we broke it. We're beating Everton at home. Phillips got a screamer from about 30 yards out. But there was 2 seasons where we had bad runs around, I'm sure it was February, March time, which duffed it and made us finish 7th. And we kind of went, 7th. But
it always seemed like that after Christmas, that post-Christmas. Like, I know I really liked a drink after the match and all of that, and the lads had a few beers and all that, but it always seemed like, like they've been on the piss during the Christmas break, and that's why they don't do it. It shouldn't be like that.
There's 2 things that I would caveat to say could have made us a better side in the Premier League, and one I maybe put down to Peter Reid, and the other one was just out of his control. Had we had Lee Clark, I believe we might have been a lot more competitive. And I think freezing out Nicky Summerby was a big mistake.
Massive. I agree.
It was one of the biggest mistakes.
Completely agree.
That Peter Reid made in his outstanding career at Sunderland on the whole. Freezing out Nicky Summerby was career suicide at this club.
And I'll give you another one. Just whilst we're on unpopular opinions about probably something that's quite an unpopular thing to discuss, but probably has some points. Selling Michael Bridges, despite the fact he was 3rd choice, from a future-proofing perspective, that was the wrong decision. I know he went on and got injured in X, Y, and Z, but he scored, I think, 21 goals in his debut season for Leeds. If he stays at Sunderland and say he scores half of that coming off the bench for Quinn and Phillips, and then you gradually bring him in, you don't sign Lily and Laslons. You don't sign Torre Andre Flo. You don't sign a load of absolute crap because you got your ready-made replacement. Oh, God. But
Carsten Fredgaard.
There was errors there, and I think you've also got to look at Alan Johnson. Look, he wanted to leave, fair enough, but I think Alan Johnson could have potentially, even if he had left at the end of the season, played a little bit more, rather than putting Stefan Schwartz on the left wing. You could have tucked him in the middle and had him next to Eric Waugh, Borley, Alex Ray. I mean, real football players. Lee, I'll leave you with a final word. Do you agree with Pete's assessment that the team that in our lifetime we all probably herald as the best team we've had? I don't think any of us would disagree with that, but should have done better, i.e. got into Europe at least once.
I'd agree with that. For how well we start that first season, and against that drop-off point between, I think it was December and March. Then we kick on again in March. But yes, I would agree with Pete, but I don't think some of the waste is on Peter Reid as well. I think a lot of Bob Murray as well. What really knocked him was the inability to replace Niall Quinn.
Yeah.
But it was I suppose I agree that it's on Peter Reid because he tried to still play this long ball football, and he'd bring centre forwards in who like the ball to feet. So that the game was changing and he wasn't adapting. He was still like, oh, just punt long balls, and it was the same when he went to Leeds. He kept them up.
Shot at Nicky Summerby whilst we still had Niall Quinn, arguably the second best in England, who could put a ball in with his right foot. And Kevin Phillips and Niall Quinn have both said this. The only person that they've seen do it better and more consistently was David Beckham at that time, and he got rid of him. It's just mind blowing when you think back. You've got arguably one of the best headers in the game at that time that people just could not mark. And we got rid of the person who puts the ball onto his head 6 times, 7 times a match. It was just, that's something I'll never forgive Peter Reid for. I can never forgive him for.
I love Summerby. Brilliant player. One of he would get in my all-time team.
Him and Chris Macon on that right-hand side.
Yeah,
they were
class.
telepathic, same as Mickey Gray and Magic Johnson were on the left. It was telepathic what they could do with each other. And it's funny when you listen to Summerby and Macon, because whenever he talked about Chris Macon coming over the halfway line, he was like, what the fuck are you doing up here? But they knew their jobs. They knew each other inside out. And ultimately freezing him out, I think, was the start of the end of Chris Macon's Sunderland career as well.
Bridges,
Did Macon not go
Summerby.
before Summerby?
No.
Summerby was frozen out.
Buzzer went before. I think if Buzzer didn't go before, he would have went. I think he went afterwards, but hadn't played for ages. And correct me if I'm wrong on this, because the podcast we did was 4 years ago. You can listen to an interview with Nicky Summerby from COVID times, which I did years ago if you search for it. Yeah, he's great value. He's very, very funny. Not 100% sure he's all there, but that makes it better. I think he's had 1 or 2 nights which were maybe stronger drinks than he expected, and they may be continuing into his later life. But no, on a serious note, he's a great fella. But I think when it comes to Summerby, I think he said he was genuinely injured before the Arsenal game and said, look, I'm injured. I can't actually play. And Peter Reid took it as he was bottling it and then bombed him out. At least that's how he felt. And yeah, that was a mistake. But look, Peter, if you're listening, you're the best manager that I've ever had in my lifetime. Thanks for stuffing the mags numerous times. And thanks for giving us everything that you did. I just wish it had been a little bit better.
I love them so much. I love that team so much. Like they are, it's just heartbreaking that it never became what it should have been.
Yeah, I just wish they had something else to put on a trophy, a European place, something like that. But we hate to give unpopular opinions. That's just the whole point. But that's going to wrap it up for us all. Brad, Pete, Lee, look, I don't know when people are listening to this, but at this moment in time, we're talking on the 22nd of December. So I hope you all have a really class Christmas. Thanks very much for joining us tonight, and enjoy a couple of days of festivities with your family and friends, isn't it?
Yeah,
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas to you
Merry
guys.
Christmas, Pete.
To Dave and Ross, and more importantly, all the listeners. Have a good one.
Yeah, massively. Look, we always take the P and stuff like that because we generally don't care if people listen, like, or watch, subscribe. We don't care, but it's really nice. There's been a few interactions we've all had, I think, where people have listened to the podcast and enjoyed it for whatever reason. Sort of, I don't know why. Just it's crap, really, in it. But we do appreciate it. We like having chats with Sunderland fans because we get to talk more about Sunderland outside of the medium of just here. So thanks for listening. Have a cracking Christmas. Have a really good New Year. Let's hope there's 3 points down Blackburn. I'll be down there. I plan to dress as a cowboy, not for a fancy dress thing. I just want to dress as a cowboy. So if you see us, didn't make any jokes, didn't make us feel uncomfortable. I just want to dress as a cowboy. But you have a very good Christmas. Have a great New Year, and onwards to promotion in 2025. Thanks very much.